Good morning. My name is Monica Boyer. I'm with the Jackson County Public Library, and Mary Kay and I are going to split up the roundtable today. I am going to begin by talking about item status. I know that item status is probably going to be a review for a lot of you, but there are some things hidden in there that I don't know if everybody knows about, so I want to share what I know, and we'll get through that, and then we'll get into something more interesting like copy buckets. So, item status has a wealth of information. It's helpful for circulation, it's helpful for cataloging. Circulation data, you can find checkout dates, check-in dates, obviously the current status, the number of circulations if you're looking at weeding. And if you're a cataloger, which we should be, you can find your pricing, your shelving location, you can even find the mark record. So there's all kinds of good stuff that you can find just from this one screen. So we're going to explore it a little bit. You can access this item status from many places. The first and most obvious is from the splash screen in the middle column, the item status/display. But unfortunately, all the other places you find it, it's not always called the same thing. So the splash screen item status display, you can also find it in the search menu, where it's called search for copies by barcode. And in the circulation menu, it's called show item status by barcode. In the cataloging menu, it's called display item. So all of these are the same thing, but they all go to the same place. And so you can access item status from any of these. You can also do, what I do a lot, is use the F5 key. This is a quick, easy way to turn any tab into the item status. Be aware that when we migrate to and start using the web client more later, I don't know if F5 is going to continue to work, but it does right now. And also you can get to item status from the OPAC view. If you're looking at a record, down by the barcode in the center, you'll see a view hyperlink. And if you click on that, that will bring up your item status. So we're going to talk a little bit about everything that you can find in item status. We're going to start with the column picker. I hope everyone is aware of the column picker all over Evergreen. It's in item status, but it's in a lot of other places. Mary Kay may mention it when we talk about buckets. It's in holdings maintenance, it's in all kinds of places. But I hope that you know that your column picker is there and what all you can find in it, because then you can set your display up to show any types of information that you want. There's an enormous list of options that are available in the column picker. Depends on what you're doing, which ones you might want to display. For catalogers, you're probably going to want the barcode number. Maybe the circ modifier, owning library. If it has a monographic part, you can turn on the part thing, so it'll tell you which part it is. So there's all kinds here that you might want to use. I would suggest using your number and list, because as we work in batches, which Mary Kay and I are going to discuss, it's nice to know how many items are in your list. But there's lots of things there. You can turn on or off any of them you like by checking or unchecking. Currently, this is set to have the alert message, the barcode, the call number, the due date, location, status, and title all displayed. But if we wanted to change that, we can go to our column picker and add in whatever we want. Say I do want to see the circ modifier. So we'll check that. The other thing that you can do is change what order your columns are in. Yes, maybe you want to see all this information, but you want maybe the title to be front and center. So you want to take it to the far left. All you have to do is click and drag, and then you can put the title wherever you want it. Maybe you want the status right up there too, so you can click and move it wherever you like. So you can rearrange these to whatever order you want. They will stay this way while this tab is open, but as soon as you close or reload this tab, those are going to change unless you save them. So I'm going to tell you where you can save your column preferences. In the upper right, you have the Actions for Catalogers menu and the Actions for Selected Items menu. Both of those menus at the bottom have a Save Columns option. Also, the Actions for Selected Items menu is available by right-clicking on an item in item status. And then in the lower left of the screen, there is a button that says List Actions, and there the option is called Save Column Configuration. All of these options will save which columns you have have chosen from the column picker to be displayed, and they will save the order and the order of the columns and the width of the columns, because you can change the width. I also want to talk about copying to the clipboard. This is a fantastic feature that I love. You can, if there's any data that is being currently displayed in your item status, you can put that on your clipboard so you can paste it into a document, paste it into an email, whatever it is you're needing, so you don't have to write down the information you need. So you can do this in a couple of places. Both in the upper right, again, just like the Save Columns, the Actions for Catalogers and the Actions for Selected Items menus both have a Copy to Clipboard link at the top. So you can use that. And again, if you right-click on the item, the Actions for Selected Items menu will show up, and you can use Copy to Clipboard for that from that. Also, we mentioned the List Actions a minute ago. In the lower left, the List Actions buttons, there's Copy Field from Selected to Row to Clipboard. All of these things will do the same thing. They will put them on your clipboard so you can paste them wherever you want. And I do want to just show you how that works in case you're not aware. Okay, we have Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. You'll see that my columns are still how I changed them a minute ago. That's because I have not reloaded the tab, and I have not saved them. So when this goes away, they'll go back to the default that they were. But if I want to copy something from this row, say I want to put the barcode into an email, the barcode it has to be displayed here. So if what the information you want is not displayed here, you'll need to turn it on in your column picker. But in this case, I want the barcode. So I'm going to, in my case, I'm going to right click, because I right click a lot, and it'll bring up this and just copy to clipboard. And you'll get this little pop-up box. This box has every column that is currently being displayed and this item's information for that column. You'll notice that the information is hyperlinked. So if you click on that once, it just goes away and it doesn't seem like anything happens. But it does put it on your clipboard, so now you can paste it anywhere you want, in this case into a notepad file. So copying to the clipboard is a great feature if you need it. I want to discuss the alternate view. What you're looking at now is the list view, and this is generally what you default to when item status comes up. But there is the alternate view. There's a button near the upper right, I've got a circle here, that says alternate view. This will show you different and more information about your item. So I'm going to go through the different parts of alternate view. First of all, there are 4 different tabs in alternate view, and we're going to go through each one. But all 4 of them, no matter which part you're looking through, they always have this gray bar at the top that has the title, the author, some basic bibliographic information. It's not about the item itself, it's about the bibliographic record. You can see that who created this bibliographic record, who last edited it, and when. And all that in the gray bar is just the bibliographic record. And you'll also see up there is where your TCN and your database ID number are. So that's a good way to find that if you're needing to share record information with other librarians or coworkers. So the first, now, like I said, the gray tab is going to be there all the time. Now we're going to discuss the different tabs. The first one is the quick summary. Data became active. The last time the status was changed. In the third column, you have number of circs, which is divided out in a nice way. It's got total circs, plus it shows you how many circs it's been so far this year and last year. And you can see the last check-ins and check-out workstations, last time they were checked in and checked out. So this is some really good circ data, but I do want to show you something that I just stumbled upon, and I think it's great. If you are in item status, and we've still got Harry Potter up here, this is one of my library's older copies of Harry Potter, so we've had it for several years. You can see that in those years it's circed 49 times, and so far in 2016 it's circed 4 times, and it's circed 10 times in 2015. This is all really good data for if you're trying to determine whether it's time to weed an item or not. But what is also very interesting is if you hover over your total circs, it will divide it out by year and show you where all the different numbers are, so which years are the best. And this is just something I stumbled upon, so I just think it's really cool. So it can be handy if you are looking at circulation data. So we will go back. That's the quick view, the quick summary. There's also the circulation history tab. And again, this is a lot of circulation data, but you can get the information about the last 2 circs that have been on your item. There's the holds transit tab. Again, circulation data, but it can be useful if you've got an item that's gone missing. Maybe you find a lead on where it went. And finally, the cataloging info tab has the mark record right there, which is a nice way to get a quick, easy way to get to your mark record if you have an item and you see if the item matches the record without having to pull up the OPAC. So it's a really handy way to get to that. So now we're going to talk about putting items into item status. Most obviously, you can put your barcode number into the blank there and hit submit. You can type it in, you can scan it in from a scanner, a barcode scanner, but I want to discuss the other option, which is upload from file. Upload from file is a great way to get a bunch of barcodes into item status all at once without having to type them all in or scan a bunch of barcodes. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to do that. First of all, you can only use text files and CSV files to be uploaded to item status. You can use them from Excel or Notepad, but there are certain ways you have to do it, and we're going to talk about those. If you have an Excel spreadsheet, there's always all kinds of other data in your spreadsheet. It may be the column headings, the names of your columns. It may be other data that you don't need, like we obviously need the barcodes for item status, but you don't need the title for item status. So you need to get rid of all that extra information. Then you need to save your file as a tab delimited file or as a CSV. You have to do that. The other option, you either do those things or you can copy and paste all your barcodes into Notepad and save it from Notepad. So you're not really using Excel. You had the information in Excel, but you're not really importing an Excel file into Evergreen. So I'm going to demonstrate this real quick. So we've got a fresh screen. I have this Excel sheet of barcodes and items. You'll notice that my barcodes are in scientific notation, not in real numbers. So we are going to reformat those because Evergreen won't know what to do with those. You can see that there's a bunch of data in here that we do not need. So you need to take out any columns that do not have barcodes in them. So we're going to take out the call numbers, the titles, everything. I also need to take out the column headings because Evergreen will think barcode is a number that it needs to find, and it's not. So you will delete that. Okay, now I'm going to save this to my desktop because I need to be able to, it has to be saved somewhere before I can upload it to Evergreen. So I'm going to save this. I'm going to just put it on the desktop. I'm going to call it example barcodes. And you'll notice that there's no extension after my thing. You need to save this as either a CSV, a comma delimited, or a text, which is a text tab delimited file. When I made this file, I saved it as a CSV. So this one is already a CSV, but sometimes you may have to add the extension and put .csv or .txt so that it will save properly. Well, .csv if you're in Excel. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. It is saved to my desktop. It might warn you that you might lose some stuff, but say yes, you want to keep using it. So now say someone emails you this list of barcodes and you want to put them into item status so you can look them all up, whatever you need to know. So to do that, you need to click on Upload from File, and then you find wherever you saved it on your computer. I saved this one to the desktop, and open that. And it will throw all of those barcodes into item status and tell you when it's done, which is really easy. Personally, I usually use Notepad to do this. If I had this report, someone sent this to me, or I got it from Evergreen or whatever, and I wanted to import it into Evergreen, I would not use Excel. All I would do would be highlight all the barcodes. Then I won't have to delete the other data. I can just get the barcodes I need, and I'm going to copy them, and I would paste those into Notepad and save this. Again, I'm going to save it to my desktop. I'm going to call it example barcodes again, but this is a text file and the other one is a CSV, so they can both exist. Okay, so now I have a Notepad file. I still have my Excel file. It still has the titles, the column numbers, all the important things, but I have taken just the barcodes and put them into Notepad and saved it here. So then if we want to import this into Evergreen instead, it works the same way. Upload from file, find it, and here's my text file, and uploading it. In my opinion, it's quicker and easier just to copy and paste them from Excel into Notepad and then save them there. Then you don't lose anything from Excel. So this is how we upload. I do want to point out, though, that we have the trim list checkbox at the bottom left. When you are working in batches or uploading like I was just doing, you should make sure that that box is unchecked. The one that I just uploaded only had 18 items, so it wasn't a big deal. But if it had been a bigger bucket and had more than 20, it would only display 20, and if this box was checked, it would only display 20 at once. And the first ones, as they move down the list, would fall off. So if you had a list of 100 items, by the time the list was all imported, you'd still only have 20 items. So be sure that's checked. I usually leave mine off all the time. The other thing that you can do with this data, once you have it in item status, we talked about columns, so you can choose different columns to display, and you can change the order of them. You can also sort this, so maybe you want to put these in alphabetical order by column number so you can have a pull list. If you click on the column heading, it will put it in order, and so now we've got the low numbers first. Maybe you want it backwards. You click on it again, and then you'll have a backwards list. So you could sort them by status. You just want to see things that are available. So you can sort things by clicking on the column heading, which can be pretty handy. Especially if you're trying to find a specific title in a whole list, you can alphabetize it by title and find the one you need. Okay, now we're going to talk a little bit about what actions you can do once you've imported all those barcodes into Evergreen, into item status. The first, there's actions for selected items, which you can use either from the menu button in the upper right, or by right-clicking on the item itself. And you'll get practically the same menu. There are a lot of options here. We already mentioned save columns, copy to clipboard, but there are other things that are handy in item status. Showing in catalog, so it's a quick way to get to the OPAC with a record for this item. Editing your items, you can edit one item or edit a bunch to change them all in some way. Do you need to change your price, need to change your circ modifier, whatever. Marking things missing, marking them damaged. There are some circulation type things in here, aborting transit. You can also add items to buckets, which Mary Kay is going to talk about in a few minutes. So there's a lot of things here you can do. One that I would point out that I don't know how often it gets used is the request item. You have maybe one of these items you want to put on hold. It says request item, but it is really just a hold. So if you do request item, it will come up, it will ask for your barcode, and it will tell you it's a copy hold, and you can choose the pickup library. This will automatically place a copy level hold, which is great because What if you want to place copy level hold on a few different items? Maybe you have several different volumes here or something. So you could highlight all of these at once and do request item, and you could create several holds, several copy level holds in one action. So it's pretty handy. Then there's the Actions for Catalogers menu, which, again, we talked about copy to clipboard and save columns, but there's a lot of other options. Some of these are also available in the menu we just looked at, the Actions for Selected Items, but some of them are not. So, some of them are the same: edit item attributes, mark things missing, add items to buckets, all kinds of things. But then there are a few extra things that are more for catalogers, such as adding items, editing volumes, deleting volumes and items. So there are some things in here you can do too. Again, you can do them in batches or for one item. I do want to caution you on editing volumes from item status. Editing volumes from item status is really easy, and it's a great option. And even if you're doing it in batches, it's a great option. But you need to be aware that if you edit a volume in item status and there is another item on the same volume, it is going to change the volume on that other item. So then whether you wanted that other item's call number to change or not, it has been. You just changed two call numbers for two items at one time. So just be aware of that when you're using edit volumes. And then finally, I've mentioned a little bit about doing singly or in batches. Item status is great for working in batches, or you just have a one-off item you need to fix, or you can do some of both. I uploaded that whole list of 18 items, but maybe I only needed to change 2 of them. So if I wanted to do that, I could just highlight the 2 that I like or that need to be changed, and then I can right-click and either use this or use something from the Actions for Catalogers menu. I'm going to use Actions for Selected Items and edit my item attributes. You can see that it just is showing me those 2 items and their data. I'm going to say, no, these are both DVDs. And modify the copies. It will reload those 2 items, and you can, well, I don't have my circ modifier thing up here. You can see that these are both DVDs now, whereas they were books. Or you can change a whole list at once by selecting everything, and I'm going to make them all books now because they are all books. It might take a second to load, but you can see that it lists every single item that's in the item status. And I am going to change these all to a circ modifier of books. So now we know that everything in item status is book. And we modify it. It should reload the list, I believe. Yeah. And give you updated information. And says, look, they are all books. So you can work in item status just for a single item or doing a bunch at once, which is also what you can use copy buckets for. It is. So Mary Kay is going to work on copy buckets and talk to you about that.
Good morning. I'm Mary Kay Emrich. I'm the director of the Newton County Public Library, and we catalog by my preparing AV and original cataloging, and our assistant director, Jen Aaron-Holtz, catalogs copy cataloging. So cataloging has always been kind of a very close task to my heart, and in cataloging I learned how to manage copy buckets. And some of you may be saying, what the heck is a copy bucket? Well, in Evergreen, a copy bucket is a virtual container that you use to batch process items or bibliographic records, and that's straight from the cataloging manual. Copy buckets are used to perform all sorts of maintenance tasks in batch, and they are also used to manage copy or item information. You might use copy buckets to change the status or shelving location of a group of items for a period of time, like if you're moving items to storage, if you've run out of shelf space, if you're trading parts of collections between branches, which we've done, if you're marking items that are part of a display. and you want them in a bucket because you know those items are on display. To make permanent changes in the status of a group of items, copy buckets can be used for that. You can change shelving location. I use copy buckets for deleting. I like it because it kind of gives me a track record. If you have leased items, you can use copy buckets to track those. If you lease books or see books on CD, placing them in a copy bucket will allow you to batch delete all or some of them when you return them, and it makes that task simpler. Or you can use copy buckets to collect items for a project. If you're preparing a special collection or a list, and you'll see I have a special collection later on, copy buckets are great for that. There's lots of ways to access copy buckets. The big C on the splash screen stands for copy bucket. You can also drop down the cataloging menu and select Manage Copy Buckets. From the Edit drop-down menu, you can select Copy Buckets. And again, the phrasing is different, but the action takes you to the same place. It takes you to the copy bucket. Copy bucket has two parts. The top screen is the pending copies. Those are the copies that you scanned in this action when you're particularly working in that copy bucket and you're getting ready to move those items, pardon me, to a bucket. The bottom half of the screen is your bucket view, and you can adjust the sizes of those screens. If you rest your mouse over this line, you can adjust the size of the two screens. Again, you have a column picker, like Monica talked about, with some of the same selections, and that column picker will impact pending copies only. You have to use a separate column picker to take care of the bucket view. To save your column configuration, you go to List Actions, and you do that in both the upper and lower screens again. You can create your own bucket, and you need to name that bucket before you can save it. You can also choose the buckets that you've made previously. These are buckets that I work with. This is my Cat2 login that I use. And I have books to delete, books to train with, chapter books, and we have 3 locations, so I have buckets related to those individual locations. Another way to pull up a bucket is by entering the bucket number. And you can share buckets that way by knowing the bucket number. And that is listed right here. In the bucket view, you have the bucket number, the name of the bucket, and who owns or created that bucket. And so in this screen, I would enter 8142, and that would open up the Roselawn Discards bucket, which is what's happened here. We keep a list of copy buckets and who created them and their numbers, so we know what buckets we have out there, so we're not recreating buckets, so we're not junking up our copy bucket statuses and creations. I don't need 4 or 5 training buckets. And yes, I have a bucket entitled Just a Bunch of Stuff. And that's one that I play with and tinker with, and how I originally learned to use copy buckets. So if you're ready to add items to buckets, you can add via pending copies in the bucket manager by scanning them at the top of the screen. You can add via holdings maintenance, and that is part of the drop-down menu. You can also add via item status. In pending copies, you would scan or key in your barcode number pardon me, in this box and select Submit, and that would add the items into your pending copies area of your copy bucket. If you leave copy buckets at this point, these items will disappear and you'll have to scan them in again. You must move the pending copies that are in this part of the bucket on the top half of the screen into an actual bucket in the bottom half of the screen for them to remain in the bucket when you return to this screen. You can add item buckets from holdings maintenance, which is, I love to work in holdings maintenance. Holdings maintenance just pleases me for lots of reasons. And you can right click to add to item. This is adding to buckets through actions for this record. It's also available for actions from the selected screens. You can right click actions for catalog, or you can click on Actions for Catalogers and select the second item, which is Add to Item Bucket, which is an item bucket and copy bucket are interchangeable terms. That's one of the things about Evergreen, is that we have 2 or 3 ways to go down every street. It's nice because we all develop different techniques. Unfortunately, the phraseology for the 2 or 3 different phrases sometimes differs and makes things a little confusing. You can also create a new bucket to add items to. If I'm working in copy status or holdings maintenance, and I decide I need a bucket for these Conrad biographies, I can create a bucket right then and there by selecting adding items to the bucket from either the adding actions for the item record or actions for the selected record, and I can select create a new bucket. And at that point, I can create and name a new bucket. In copy buckets, in the bucket status screen, there are a variety of statuses. There are 4 main statuses that you can view. The first is show status, and it opens the item status screen and allows the user to use all the functions of that screen. You can transfer one item to a specific volume, and that allows you to transfer the items in your bucket, one or several or all, to a different call number at your local branch or another branch. And first you have to mark the call number you wish to transfer to as an item transfer destination, just the same as when you transfer through holdings maintenance. And you can check Chapter 10.7 in the Evergreen, Indiana Cataloging Training Manual for more information on that. You can edit item attributes, and that allows you to make batch edits. If you're moving books from one shelving location to another, for example, you can do that via edit item attributes. You can also delete all from the catalog, and that deletes all items, which is useful for weeding. I'm going to choose one of my buckets, which is called the training bucket, and there's lots of materials in here. Most of these are the same book, if you notice by the title designation, but they have lots of different locations. They have several various call numbers. And so first I want to get these all in the same location. So to do that, I'm going to edit the item attributes, and I click that button. And as you can see from my working screen, I have a variety of item attributes that really don't all relate to this book. This book isn't a Western, it's not a children's chapter book. So I can edit these simply by clicking on my location collection information. So I can also go to templates, and I'm going to move these to the NWPLL history room. I'm going to click on that selection and apply it. At that point, it loads the parameters that I already have set on that template, which puts them in the history room, which is wonderful. That's where I want them. It has them as non-circulating, which I don't want them to circulate. They're not holdable. They are books, monographs, but they are not $50 a piece. They are $10 a piece. So I'm going to change that. And yes, they are considered reference. The owning libraries are this correct, of course, because I'm not going to change that here. I'm simply changing the location. When I modify that and it goes back to my copy bucket, I'm going to refresh my bucket, and it will have all my items in the history room. So editing item attributes through the copy bucket is a good, fast way to correct items that you want to correct. Now I want to delete the ones that have the call number history. So I've selected them, and I have to delete all. I can show the copy status and delete from that screen. So I can do a batch delete like Monica talked about. And through actions for catalogers, I can delete items. Now, when I go back to my copy bucket and refresh, it shows me that some of the items are deleted, some of them aren't, but it also keeps that item in my copy bucket. It has not disappeared. So if I want to leave this bucket alone for now and just exit out of copy buckets, When I return to it, I can see what items I deleted. And perhaps something has changed with that item, or at that point I know the item isn't being returned to the collection, and I can remove the selected item from the bucket. And that can be done as a batch by holding Control and making selections and clicking on Remove Selected Items from Bucket. I'm going to retrieve a shared bucket. There we go. Now I can go in and make changes to these items, but I can't remove them from the buckets because this is a shared bucket. This was created through my local administration login, and if I want to remove that selected item, it will tell me my permissions are denied. But that's a simple way to share the bucket, is simply by exchanging bucket numbers, which is why we have the bucket grid that I showed you earlier. But when you work with someone else's buckets, when you work with a shared bucket, you need to stay in communication as to what's happened with those items in that bucket, when you're done with them, when you've altered them. That other user may choose to delete the original buckets and its contents, and you go in expecting to work with that bucket, and boom, it's not there. While you may perform batch functions shown at the bottom of the screen, you may not remove the items from the bucket. You can delete them, but you can't remove them. Deleting copy buckets is not the same as deleting the contents of a bucket. This is throwing the bucket out itself, maybe like throwing the baby out with the bathwater. But if I'm done with the bucket, I've created a bucket to use for some purpose or another, and I've decided that I don't really need this bucket anymore. Before I delete the bucket, I have to remove all the contents. It won't let me delete a bucket that still has contents in it. So if I want to delete the chapter books bucket, I've used it, I'm done working with chapter books, it's going to ask me, do I want to delete that bucket? And it still appears to be there. When I drop down my list, chapter books is gone. You can create reports with copy buckets. They can be used to generate reports. You can take the contents of your bucket and generate circulation reports. There is a report available right now that Anna created for me that is a copy bucket shelf list, and it lists the items in a specific copy bucket. You can choose the copy bucket you want the items to be reported upon and generate a report that way. I do not know how to write reports with copy buckets as the field of selection because I am not a good report person. So my recommendation is you contact Anna or Jason Boyer to help you through creating a report with your copy buckets. This is the report that Anna's report for shelf listing generates. It shows the owning library, it shows the call number, and I picked this to put in alphabetical order. This is the encoded barcode number. I have the titles shown here, the authors, the status, and then the total circulation count. And I believe that total circulation count is for the lifetime of the book. That is not for the year. So that's the total circulation count for the lifetime of that particular item. There are as many different ways to use copy buckets as there are catalogers in Evergreen, so my recommendation is just to have a bucket full of fun.